Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some news out of SeaWorld where this week the SeaWorld top brass made some very interesting comments. One, that they're not bankrupt, as many of us have been predicting, that they are very well off, that they've just passed a whole bunch of measures that have given them a whole lot of cash. And not only are they not going bankrupt, but he claims that they are actively looking for maybe new parks to buy. Jeff, this might come as a shock to you because, as you recall, SeaWorld also has a number of liens on its brand new coasters and future coasters for 2021. A number of different liens out there, Iron Gwazi, the surf coaster, all this stuff. Meaning that they're not paying their bills. So they got a whole ton of cash. They're not paying their bills, and they're looking to buy more. So this kind of sounds like my life right now. I don't know.
They secured a round of funding in April and a round of funding in August, and I think before that, a lot of us were thinking, I wonder if anybody's going to buy SeaWorld,
Exactly,
or if they're going to spin off some of those parks. But now it really looks like they might be, they basically kind of floated the idea that they might be interested in acquiring other parks. They're looking for distressed properties. They don't care if it's a theme park or a water park or a hotel even.
There was a nice quote in one of the articles that you have. Could you read that quote so that we can get a good idea?
All right. So this is Swanson. He's their newest CEO. So he said there might be a situation where the market's dislocation or competitors or others in the industry who aren't able to weather the storm. So he's referring to the places that are closed or having reduced business from COVID, whether it's a water park or hotel or something like that, a park that we could look at to convert into a Sesame Place, for example. And that's kind of what they're doing right now in California. They've got that water park, which is kind of small actually. So just like for a basis of comparison of what size they might be looking at, the one in Chula Vista, California that they're converting is only 17 acres. It's got 7 attractions, like, water rides on the property. And most of the rest of the property is for like character meet and greets and like scenes like the Stoop and Mr. Hooper's store and Big Bird's Nest, and basically like photo ops and like cool stuff to look at. So that sounds like it's pretty small. So like between that and like a Busch Gardens or like SeaWorld Orlando, that's a pretty big range of what we might be expecting from them.
And keep in mind that Chula Vista water park, that used to be a Knott's water park. That used to be the Knott's Soak City water park. Knott's Cedar Fair sold that to SeaWorld and financed a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they took all that money and redid Hotel Breakers with all that money, that extra money they got from selling off their standalone water parks. So it's interesting that SeaWorld did that, and now they bought it. They're turning it into that kind of Sesame Place. And really, when you start looking at parks, I think, to me, SeaWorld and Busch Gardens have always been kind of synonymous with really beautiful parks, really nice parks. Like, obviously Williamsburg, Tampa's a really nice park. San Antonio might not be the prettiest park, but it's well maintained. It's well set up. It's got a nice theme park feel to it. It's very big. Even though they got the big lake in the middle that takes up a lot of the space, it still has a really big footprint. I don't know how many parks are out there if they're looking to buy a theme park. The ones that jump to mind are things like Magic Springs. And Magic Springs was interesting to me because you could kind of have maybe a little bit of synergy with all those Texas parks you have. So you have, not all the Texas parks, but you have SeaWorld San Antonio. Maybe you could get a little jump off and get some season pass and platinum pass base, holders there by trying to sell the people in San Antonio this idea of going to Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's not super close to one another, but it's within a travel range where people would travel. And I went to Magic Springs a couple of years ago, and I think that park has a pretty nice layout. Obviously there's a lot of room for expansion and room for improvement, but that park, it has a number of coasters. It has, a lot of land. It's got a water park. That could be one. What else for theme parks? Are there any theme parks that are out there that you think?
Well, I like that one too, just because of its location. I started thinking of the
And,
Apex parks
and
because.
just keep in mind, we're just throwing shit out there right now.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, just trying to see what
this
sticks to
is
the
we
wall.
just
Yeah, we.
this is I think all of this is a pretty big long shot that SeaWorld starts buying parks. I think it's almost unreasonable to think this, but hey, he put it out there, so we're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah, and probably their best bets are water parks and things that are smaller that we might just not be familiar with because only locals would know. But I started thinking of
Locals and one other guy we know.
yeah, I started thinking of Apex because when this whole thing started up, they just were like, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of that, they were trying to like kind of shelter the rest of some of their business. So I was trying to think of what chain or what brand might be in that position, and I came up with uh, the Palace Entertainment Group, and they have a lot of parks that people are familiar with, and they also have a lot of water parks. So if you're not familiar, like Kennywood, Lake Capounce, those are probably their two like most well-known parks, but they have a lot of kid parks like Storyland and Idlewild, and Dutch Wonderland is theirs as well. So like they do have parks that people know, and they have a slew of water parks. And there's one near me, Splish Splash, and it's actually a really pretty park. And I feel like it doesn't matter what's on the property as long as it looks nice for that brand, because if they're looking to invest, they'll buy some good stuff for it, right?
Yeah, and I feel like water parks in general usually have pretty solid infrastructure because like when I think of like an Idlewild, I've been there. It's all gravel, it's in the middle of a forest. Like Idlewild, there's no way SeaWorld could come in and do anything there. But like a water park, you have a lot of pavement,
Yeah.
especially concrete pavement, because people can't walk on gravel without, going from slide to slide. They can't walk on, preferably not blacktop going from slide to slide. So
And it's got to be well maintained because people are, they're going to be barefoot. So it can't be like broken or cracked. And my experience at Splish Splash is that it's a really well maintained park. Um, There's a bunch of other ones that I'm not as familiar with. There's some in different parts of the country, like North Carolina might seem like a good area to get that travel with Williamsburg, maybe. They have a park down there as well. If we're just looking at water parks,
and you said that the Palace stuff has not opened at all this year, right?
most of their properties have not opened. Lake Capounce opened in limited capacity, and they've been having just a slew of bad luck with poor attendance. And when Isaiah came through, they had a lot of storm damage apparently,
Mm-hmm.
and they couldn't use their campground for a while. I'm not sure if they reopened it or not because they were using it for I forget the name of it. Their local power company was using it as a staging ground.
Okay.
So that that's another source of revenue that they lost. I know Boulder Dash was down for like a week. I think today it came back on. And Kennywood's kind of in the same boat where they're reducing their schedule already, and they're kind of shrinking back those hours. So maybe not as strong of a attendance showing as they were hoping, even for what they knew they would be limited to. So I was thinking maybe they would want to protect a park like that.
Yeah, in a place like Kennywood, I just don't like Kennywood's so classic in nature is the nicest way to put it, that I just don't see Kennywood being high up on their list. But like you said, some of those water parks, I don't know. Hershin said that they might be in some trouble too, and you wonder if Hershin might be getting out of the theme park business. Maybe is there an opportunity there? Because you look at a place like Dollywood, hotel, park, the whole kit and caboodle. or even something like Wild Adventure in Georgia. A Wild Adventure is a beautiful park. Rides not so great, but Wild Adventure is a wonderful park. They got some animals there. That's in SeaWorld's wheelhouse. Maybe Herschen's looking to unload some of their lower performing parks. I don't even know if Wild Adventure is open, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and because they threw out hotels too, which kind of like gives me the idea that they're just like they're willing to maybe try some new things. Maybe even just aquariums and like animal parks in general, like without rides, they would buy and maybe even add to them. But Herschend owns an aquarium in New Jersey, for example, I know, and Palace Entertainment owns at least one aquarium in Florida. I think they own one in like Hawaii too, but that might be well off their path for right now.
Yeah.
If they were looking to kind of diversify, there's also like family entertainment centers and like family fun centers like that could kind of fit into that category as well. I don't know if they would do that though.
Well, it's interesting because if you remember a few years ago, and maybe it was even a few years ago, Six Flags put out those feelers on that one survey saying, hey, what if we got involved in the FEC business? And I obviously nothing ever happened with that. But they threw that out there. What if SeaWorld's trying to expand their brand name? Herschend operates a whole bunch of those sea life, like museum type interactive things. Like the Mall of America, they own one. Is SeaWorld going to get their name out there and try to start operating those things too? That's another option. I looked it up. Wild Adventure is open right now. So you can attend there. The other place we had mentioned was Marineland.
Yeah.
And Marineland, I think, is really interesting because they literally just opened up July 29th. And I was kind of shocked by that because I know Canada's Wonderland had not opened up yet. But it looks like Marineland is opening up under the cloak of being a zoo.
Right.
Because all their rides are closed. A lot of their indoor theaters are closed. So they're like opening up as like a park / zoo type deal. And they literally just opened on July 29th. So they've only been open for like 2 weeks here. So they've lost most of the season. And you can't imagine that their season's very long to begin with up there in Niagara. But Marineland, like if SeaWorld came in there, and I don't know what they would do with the animals and stuff, but it seems like a natural fit there, doesn't it, already? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of like a SeaWorld wannabe. Is like kind of the nicest thing you could say about them.
Yeah.
And it's a park that is like really set up to invest in because there's like a lot of empty space there. I haven't been there since I was a young kid, but people that have been there more recently said that was still true, that there was just long paths that had nothing on them, stuff like that,
Yes.
going on.
And so in that, like, you can do that's a blank slate for you. It's a beautiful park, wide open, do whatever you want. And Jeff, the most important thing there is everybody loves Marineland. So
I do remember the jingle, yeah.
So you literally can't go wrong. And I would imagine they would have to call it SeaWorld Marineland, right? You can't drop Marineland.
I don't know. Maybe it's SeaWorld Niagara Falls.
Maybe.
Let people know that, hey, when you're visiting Niagara Falls, go to SeaWorld.
Yeah, that would actually be better, wouldn't it?
Call me SeaWorld.
Yeah.
They have no PR person up there.
So, who knows what's going to happen here? I think it's real interesting that they're talking about buying parks now. Like I said, I don't know if this is going to happen or if this is just people talking. Is this just the new brass coming in and trying to make it seem like they have a strong plan that, hey, no, we're not going bankrupt. We're going to buy people, so that kind of thing. Like that, like this, they're in trouble, not us. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. But there's not a huge amount of theme parks out there that I think they can buy. But you start talking about small water parks like what they're doing with Chula Vista, and I think the sky is really the limit. Those places are, everywhere. So who knows?
And there could be a low bar of entry on a small place like that too.
Yeah,
If they're looking for bargains anyway.
exactly. So we will keep you updated. Maybe we'll see SeaWorld be dropping some big money here in the short future. No, I don't think so either. So as always, I am Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman from Long Island, New York.
Right on, right, Warriors.